You guys know what an Ascension model is? An Ascension model is low ticket. The job of the low ticket is to pay for ads. Okay. Then you have a subscription. Okay. And that's your monthly recurring revenue, obviously. And then you might have yearly subscription or enterprise, which is medium, MRR. Then you have retainers, which are like 1K to 5K per month, something like that, like an agency. And then you have high ticket, which is 5K plus, depending on your region and avatar. But this is called an Ascension model, right? And above this, you have free. Okay, so this could be free download, a free ebook, it could be social media, it could be a newsletter, it could be any reason someone would opt in or being part of your network. If you think about it this way, you're either taking people down the Ascension model, okay, down the funnel, where at the top they see something free, and then they buy something, and then they become a subscriber, and then maybe they upgrade, and then maybe there's some kind of done for you service that's more expensive, or coaching or something like that. And then there's high ticket at the bottom, which is really expensive. So you can start your company in any way. At some point, you're going to have what's called your core product, core offer. Alex calls this your beachhead. If you're storming the beach of the market, you have to choose one beach. So where are you going to start? With software or an app, oftentimes it's like a freemium model where it's either free or a low ticket subscription. And then slowly but surely, you add more and more services. We have a client launching on Monday. We're handling all of her marketing. It's a low ticket product, but the upsell is calling one of her coaches, therapists, that sort of person, and it's $150 an hour. She gets people in at $9 a month, $19 a month. But if they want to talk with someone directly to get the upgrade, then it ends up becoming more expensive. Does that make sense? So you're ascending people from low to high, but you can also go from high to low, meaning that you can start out with a high ticket product, a really expensive product. Maybe it's just one-on-one services. A lot of agencies are like this. Maybe you're starting an AI agency where you're going to help other people make their app. So you're going to help other people implement AI systems with their CRMs to get more revenue, more leads. Imagine that. I know some of you are probably thinking about doing that, but you might want to have a downsell, right? Where you say, not everyone can afford this $1,000 a month thing, this $1,500 a month thing, this $5,000 thing. Not everyone can afford my $10,000 package. Fair enough. So you have a bunch of people. What problem do I solve for whom, and how do I do it uniquely? That's basically all businesses. Your problem is why people will pay you. If you're not solving a problem, whether through something digital, physical, whether through a product, whether through a service, through a software, through an app, you're solving someone's problem. And for whom is your customer base? Is it moms, bank CEOs? This is your avatar. And then how do you do it uniquely is your unique value proposition or your unique selling point, or in software, your minimum viable feature. It's like the one thing that differentiates you. In business, they might call it a moat, right? Or your defensibility, the thing that makes you unique. So the thing that makes you unique, you can offer that in very inexpensive ways and very expensive ways, both. And having an option, I use this example a lot. You guys know Gordon Ramsay? So Gordon Ramsay, the chef, right? You can hire Gordon Ramsay to be the personal chef at your wedding. Now, who can afford that? Some Middle Eastern royal family or some billionaire, but you can do it. It might cost you $10 million, but you can hire him to be your personal chef at your wedding. It's going to cost a lot of money, but you can also download his cookbook on Kindle for 99 cents. The brand of Gordon Ramsay has a high ticket product of personal chef at my wedding, $10 million, and also 99-cent cookbook, or maybe a branded TV dinner at Walmart. Does that make sense? You have an entire life cycle. All right. The idea is that I have a product that's $100 a month, but a lot of people can't afford it. I was thinking about selling it for $29 a month. $29 a month is very different than $1,500 a month. Does that make sense? Whenever you're thinking about your business, if you have something that's really high ticket, expensive, you might want to build a software that's congruent with it as a downsell. You're amazing. I really want to do this, but it's a little bit out of my budget. They said, you know what? Listen, I know you can't afford $1,000, but why don't you use my software? It'll do most of that work. You won't have to pay $1,000. You're gonna have to do it on your own a little bit more, but you can see where that's going. The way that I think about building this kind of stuff, as you've seen me before, I always think about, especially on a web app, what are the different features that I'm going to have? Okay, what are the different features here? And then usually the outputs are here. Okay, so this is like a menu item here. And then each one of these is an input. And then there's either a prompt or an automation that puts back an output. And that's really all the software is. Now, it can be more complicated because if this input, then that output, then this input, then that output, whatever it may be. I built that this morning and I'm going to launch it tomorrow on a webinar. Going through this today, I'm going to have probably hundreds of people from my email list. And this is even more important for an email list. So like my deal raise company, we have 20-some thousand people on an email list because we run advertising. Because we run advertising, we always get all these opt-ins. For the last 2 years, I haven't built the software for it. I just said, no, if you want to work with us, we're going to do everything for you. It costs $1,500 a month. You're trying to raise millions of dollars and you can't afford $1,500, you're probably going to be a difficult client. We have all these people, our email list, that get emails from us, but there's basically nothing to sell them because they can't afford $29. It's like, why not? $29. Yeah, might as well try it. So that's the way to think about that. And only since Famous came out was I able to even think about creating a software. This is for yourself, but also if you're building services. There's a lot of companies that maybe sell something that's a little bit more expensive, but they really need something that's cheaper. I wanted to talk today about books as well. Okay. So if you remember what you learned already, just as a summary, is that you want to have an Ascension model. You want to have low ticket to high ticket. You want to have something, if someone wants to pay you $10,000, you got to have a product for it. And if someone wants to pay you 20-some bucks for something, you should have a product that's 20-some bucks. That makes sense? There's no reason not to. And I made that error myself, and mostly because I didn't want to pay $200,000 in software developer fees to be able to build a software to help people raise money. But now with Famous, I can build that software. Does that make sense? And I did just in the last couple of days. And think about this. I had this idea about 3 weeks ago, and I was working on other things. Yesterday, I sat down and thought, I should just do it. I came up with the general wireframe and what I wanted, and I used ChatGPT for various prompts. And I built what I showed you. The total build was probably 6 hours or so. I wanted to give you an example. If you think about it correctly, it's good. If you have something expensive, you need something cheap. And if you have something cheap, you need something expensive. It's called squeezing the juice out of all of your customer base because you're solving the same problem. I want to raise money for my company. Okay, cool. You can get Jonathon's help from his team and you pay more, or I can join the software and I can do a lot of it myself, but nonetheless, you're still solving the same problem. Okay, so ask yourself that question. How can I do a software version and a very high touch, white glove, expensive version? And if you organize yourself before you start, you can have something pretty good in 4 to 8 hours. To have something really good with lots of prompting and lots of, because I'm going to be iterating on this like probably every other day. I'm going to change something about it. But as it gets better, the price will go up and you got to just get in the arena. The answer to whatever you're thinking in your head is just after launch. You got to just launch. If you just do it for whatever your company is, all of a sudden you're going to be like the top 1% in the world in digital marketing. That's a new concept. So, I'd never coded in my life and joined the Famous community. I binge watched 25 hours of YouTube tutorials. I came on these lessons and I just trial and error my way. Now I have this basic functioning software in 2 days, 3 days. Level would have taken 3 or 4 years of computer engineering school. So you're smushing what used to take 3 or 4 years to learn into a weekend. Because the hard skills are being squeezed, the time of learning them to execute on them, whether it's I want to run a meta ad and I want to create a landing page so that people can log into my software. Those are 4 different distinct hard skills that 10 years ago, you couldn't learn in a week. It might have taken you years, even if you were really smart. And where do you find the information? Now, if you're disciplined and okay with failure, you can squeeze time and learn the hard skills much faster. Execution is becoming commodified. If you have the right soft skills to deal with the inevitable mental problems that will hold you back from getting started. Soft skills are more important than ever because someone being really good at some hard skill is less of a moat. It's less of a defense now because you can hire people abroad that are much cheaper. Now you have AI software that does most of the work for you and nearly free training. So that's where I wanted to talk today about some of these soft skills. I'm gonna go through a bunch of books. Deep Work by Cal Newport. He says that the most important thing in today's economy is your ability to focus without distractions for 2 to 4 hours. How many people can really not check your email, not check your WhatsApp, not do any of that, actually sit down and do something that's really difficult for 4 hours? It's so rare. If you can do it, that's great. That means you're unique. But you can see how that skill, that ability, if in 4 hours you can do the same level of jump as you could have done 2 years ago in 6 months, then every time you do one of those 4 hour sessions, you can speed up your process. So deep work, focused attention, no distractions, you know what you're doing, you have a specific goal for what you're doing, and you're going to go until you finish it, at least for that day. And then there's what people miss with deep work is that the next thing you need to do is what did you learn from the previous day? So rather than just doing the same thing over and over again, he has another book called Deliberate Practice. You need to do the deep work and then the next day, look back at what you did and try to improve consciously. And there's this book, One Thing by Gary Keller. Basically, he says there's one thing you should really do every day. You don't do it because it's probably the scariest thing. You're afraid of the consequences, or maybe it takes some money. There's something that's holding you back. And he says, basically, if you just do that one thing, like if you just journal about it, like what's the one thing? If I was a robot, okay, and I didn't have my own emotions, ego, I didn't have my worry, I didn't have my fear, I had unlimited energy, I wasn't afraid of confrontation, what would I do? And he says, there's usually one thing every day. He asks the question, what's the one thing that if I did it today, make everything in my life easier, whatever that is, that's what you should do. So take that one thing and do deep work. This is one of my favorite books, Alter Ego Effect. He works with some big athletes and musicians, and there's a lot of scientific study here. It's almost like a Halloween costume. If you act like you have some alter ego, or what would Jesus do, or what would so-and-so do? If you put that on for just a second, all of a sudden you feel different. So you can either create your own alter ego or you can imagine someone. Tony Robbins talks about this as well. He says that he made himself, and he doesn't mean in this egoic way. He means he created the persona and then lived into that persona. A little bit more technical, 22 immutable laws of marketing. He says the most important one, lesson number 1, which is be first. And then lesson number 2 is if you're not first, make up a new category for your first, so you're first anyways. And really, this is what they're saying is have a unique value proposition. You have to have a reason why you're better than your competitors. And so you're probably not going to be first in a category, but you can be the first of some particular type in that category. Radical Candor by Kim Scott, I think, is probably the best executive leadership book. She says that there's people that are empathetic and nice in the short term, but they're actually very mean in the long term because they're not telling people the truth. If you have people on your team and you're always trying to be nice and understanding, then what ends up happening is you allow one bad apple to really hurt everyone else. It's actually very selfish to not be radically candid about people's performance and what you expect. If you're not, you think you're being nice, but you're really selfishly not wanting the confrontation. As a consequence, you're hurting yourself, your family, everyone else on the team. So you're choosing this one person because you don't want to have a confrontation over everyone else. So you're being mean to everyone else. And you're justifying it, thinking that you're being empathetic or kind to this one person. So she says, you're not being kind. It's parents that let their kids do anything. And they think that they're being nice to their kid. And actually, they're just training their child to be disliked in the future because the kid is not socialized. Later in their life, when they have actual consequences for their action, instead of just getting away with everything in the home, when they're out in public, people are not going to like them. You're actually doing your child very intense disservice by letting them do whatever they want. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, great book. Basically, everything in your life is your fault. Do people have different circumstances? Sure. Harping on them doesn't matter. Everyone can write the story of why it was their family, the government, their boss, their geographic location, their nationality, their whatever reason why they didn't get the thing that they wanted. Everyone has that story. Every single person has that story. It's not interesting. The interesting stories are the ones that, even though you have that, who cares? What are you going to do about it? So you take extreme ownership of the consequences of your life. Blitzscaling by Reid Hoffman, one of my favorite books. He's the founder of PayPal and LinkedIn. Basically, the most important thing here is you want to iterate your funnel until you find something that works. It's called blitzscaling, like blitz, like in football, blitzscale, or like blitzkrieg, like German. Blitzscaling, meaning that you go slow and you iterate until you find something that works. Then when you find something that works, you got to be really aggressive. Hence, first mover, right? Start with Why by Simon Sinek. Actually, I'll do this first. Lean startup, okay? Lean startup basically means that you don't know what your product is. You think you do. You don't know what people are going to use. If you don't know what people are going to use, then you just need to get in the arena. You just need to build an MVP. And then data and feedback from the customers will tell you what the actual product is. Start with why is very important for hiring really good talent or having people on your team. Because if you're constantly iterating, then you're not selling them on the actual job. You're selling them on the vision. You're saying, we're going to build this thing. I don't really know if it's going to be this software, or that software, or whatever it may be, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because what we're doing is solving this bigger problem, and we're going to iterate until we solve that problem. So when you combine lean startup plus start with why, it allows you to, even though you don't really know what you're building quite yet, you can still, because you have a larger why, a larger mission, you can get some really talented people on your team.